and welcome to this next installment of our series of videos coming out of the release of the 2020 MAD South Carolina Court Monitoring Report called Refusal to Change. My name is Stephen Burrett, the Executive Director of MAD South Carolina. In this short video, we want to focus on our fifth area, which is encouraging the aggressive and well-resourced prosecution on DUI cases. Now, we've for years been meeting with DUI prosecutors, and we've had plenty of opportunities to hear from them very real, very tangible reasons why it is so hard to prosecute DUI cases in South Carolina, and those things that relate directly back to why the conviction rate is as low as it is. And in our overall data video, we shared that for 6 of the 7 counties where we monitored, there was not even a 50% conviction rate among the cases that we looked at. So we believe and know that those challenges are very real. All that said, we still are going to continue to encourage a more aggressive mindset among those who prosecute DUIs across our state. There are certainly, they know well, certain cases that they can definitely win and some cases that they can't win. But we really encourage when it comes to those cases in the middle where maybe the judge will let this video stand, maybe they won't, that our prosecutors try their best, because what we don't want to see happen is come to a situation where anytime a DUI case is anything less than perfect, our prosecution kind of defaults to the mindset of, well, we do so many reckless driving, let's just offer a reckless driving plea for this one as well. Again, we don't feel that serves public safety well. Now, it may mean that if prosecutors are more aggressive with their cases, they may lose more cases than they currently lose, but we think that they'll also win a lot more. And again, that more aggressive mindset will eventually send a message to defense attorneys and the entire community that DUIs will be taken seriously. And in the whole, we think that'll raise conviction rates and do better for public safety. Now, in terms of specific recommendations, one thing we heard that some some agencies do, which we think is positive, is to have some sort of an internal review process where if somebody is going to offer a reckless driving plea, they basically have to write that up and have it signed off on by a higher level member of the staff within their agency. We think that's a nice accountability measure just to make sure that somebody doesn't, again, fall into those bad habits of just letting everything turn into a reckless driving plea rather than fight. Of course, a lot of it comes back to the issue of resources, and we certainly understand that a lot of our prosecution agencies simply don't have the resources that they should. So first of all, we think the area of DUI prosecution should be well resourced, either to ease the caseload of the ones who are already doing DUI prosecution, or very importantly, so that within that agency, they can take on the DUI cases that are currently being prosecuted by officers. Now, from the best of our knowledge, and some people have written about this across the nation, we believe South Carolina is one of only 2 states in the country where where officers are regularly prosecuting their own DUI cases, which means what is very normal in our state, in other states, they would never allow to happen. Obviously, we think that is a highly problematic situation. And we say that knowing that there are some officers who have become very good prosecutors, and we give them all the credit for really honing their skills and learning from their lessons. But by and large, we don't think officers should be the one prosecuting their own cases. They don't have the law degrees. They should be spending their time on the road keeping us safe, not in trial or preparing for trial or in court for those cases where they should just be appearing quickly to say what their assessment of the situation was, not doing the whole case. And if you look back to our first video that we did where we go over the data, the evidence is clear. When a law enforcement officer is going up against a defense attorney, they're only getting a conviction 13% of the time. When a lawyer prosecutor is going up against a defense attorney, it's 43% of the time. That is a massive difference. And again, it stands to reason that we need to be avoiding these situations where we have this legal mismatch with an attorney going up against an officer. Let's let them do what they do best and give them the support they deserve. Now, when we do the court monitoring and we're in these 7 counties, we always said that it's not really our goal to talk a lot about the individual strengths and weaknesses of different counties. It's to talk about the systematic issues and the things we see across the board. However, with that being said, we really couldn't ignore the fact that if you watched that video and you heard our reports, there was one county, Spartanburg County, which had a conviction rate of 67%, much higher than the next highest county. And so we went and looked back at those conversations we had when we presented these data locally and what we learned from each of these agencies. And we had to admit that when we talked to the 7th Circuit Solicitors Agency led by Solicitor Barry Barnett, there were many things that they talked about in that area that we simply didn't hear about in other places. So we wanted to take a moment, we do this in our report, to kind of highlight a culture of success, because we really feel like the 7th Circuit Solicitor's Office has created that. And so here's some of the tangible things that they talked about that they do. So First of all, they assign their DUI cases to a number of different prosecutors, whereas sometimes the trend is to put it all on one specialized DUI prosecutor, which makes sense, except that, as Solicitor Barnett spoke about, sometimes if defense attorneys know that this caseload is building up on this one prosecutor, they'll all want to go to jury trial. They'll all delay things in the hopes that eventually the person will get overwhelmed and will start pleading out cases. But his belief is that if you spread it out among multiple prosecutors, no single one gets as overwhelmed and they all can keep their kind of aggressive mindset. They talked about some structural things they did where they moved some cases or some types of charges that would normally be heard in magistrate court up to circuit court, so that they could, General Sessions Court, so that they could have more jury trial spots open for DUI cases. In fact, as we went around to these local meetings and we asked them, typically, of every 100 DUI arrests, what percentage would you say actually go to a jury trial? And typically we heard very low numbers, sometimes 1%, 3%. Some of very experienced DUI officers told us they had never had one of their DUI cases go to a jury trial. But when we asked that question in Spartanburg, they talked about some weeks they have multiple DUI jury trials in 1 week. Again, we could hear some very different things that they do differently. So in short, at the end of that roundtable, we asked Solicitor Barnett, I said, in a nutshell, why would you say you think your conviction rate is higher than the other areas that we monitored? And he basically said, we try our cases. And again, that's the kind of aggressive mindset, the well-resourced prosecution of DUI cases that we can see is making a difference and making an impact. So we give them lots of credit for that. And we use that as encouragement that other places as well can impact their conviction rates and the way DUIs are treated in their courtrooms with a more aggressive mindset and putting the resources behind it. So thanks for checking out our number 5 recommendation dealing with prosecution. We appreciate the support as we try to make South Carolina a state that goes from refusal to change to one that actually changes for the better. Thank you.